You know, it's kind of wild if you stop and think about it. There's just this huge number of shows and movies focused on teenagers who are suddenly dealing with, well, supernatural stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. From things like Goosebumps that, kept us reading under the covers to the big streaming hits everyone's talking about now. It's a massive genre.
Totally. And it makes you wonder, like, what is it? What's the secret ingredient that keeps us all coming back?
That's pretty much the core question for today's deep dive. We're exploring exactly that, why teen-focused supernatural drama in both TV and film has such a hold on us. We'll be looking at quite a few examples, things like Goosebumps, Fate, the Winx Saga, It, Scary Movie, Stranger Things, the originals, Scream, the Vampire Diaries, and of course Wednesday.
Right. So maybe you've watched all of these, maybe religiously, or perhaps you're just sort of curious about why they're so popular. Either way, you're in the right spot. We've sifted through a lot of material, how they were created, the basic stories, the audience reactions. Think of this as getting the lowdown on what makes these teen supernatural stories work so well without you having to, watch hundreds of hours yourself.
Exactly. Our aim is to pull out the common threads, see the patterns, and really try to understand why these particular stories hit home for so many people. We'll use details from all those sources we mentioned.
Okay, let's start unpacking it. One thing that jumps out immediately is, well, how many focus squarely on teenagers? Or sometimes even younger kids. You've got Goosebumps, Fate, the Winx Saga with its fairies, the kids in it, the Stranger Things group, the Vampire Diaries in high school, Wednesday at Nevermore. It feels deliberate, that focus on young people. What's going on there?
It's a really common setup, isn't it? You take these, seemingly normal young people and bam, they're confronted with something extraordinary, often terrifying. And I think that dynamic is key. They're not like trained ghost hunters or seasoned vampire slayers. They're figuring things out as they go.
While also dealing with homework and dating and stuff.
Exactly. All the normal teen drama. It makes them feel vulnerable, but also relatable. You discover the weirdness alongside them.
And it's not always just straight up horror either, is it? There seems to be a real mix of genres.
Oh, definitely.
R.L. Stine famously called Goosebumps scary books that are also funny.
Right. That blend is crucial.
And Stranger Things feels like it throws everything in: horror, sci-fi, mystery, drama, coming of age.
It does. And even something like Scary Movie, which is obviously a parody, is specifically targeting horror, slasher, and mystery conventions.
Yeah, like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. So what does mixing all those genres do for the story?
Well, for one thing, it broadens the appeal, doesn't it? You're not just getting horror fans. Plus, it allows the stories to explore different facets of life, even with, monsters lurking around. The humor in Goosebumps or the adventure feel in Stranger Things can actually make the scary stuff more palatable.
Especially for younger audiences, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. And those coming-of-age elements, the friendships, the first loves, that gives us something grounded and emotional to latch onto, even when things get really weird.
Right. And speaking of connections, let's talk themes. One that seems almost universal is this idea of young people actually defeating the evil thing. The Goosebumps kids outsmarting the monster, the Losers Club facing Pennywise in it, the Stranger Things kids fighting Vecna, or the Demogorgon. It's often the kids saving the day. Why is that so popular?
That theme of youth triumphing over evil, it's incredibly potent, especially for the intended audience. It's empowering, isn't it? Seeing characters who might seem less powerful actually win. And tied into that, you almost always see this huge emphasis on friendship, the found family idea.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Think of the Losers Club in it. They need each other. Or the groups in Stranger Things, the fairies in Fate, the Winx Saga, the core group in the Vampire Diaries. Those bonds are their strength against the supernatural threats. They're fighting monsters, yeah, but they're also just navigating being teenagers together.
Like the supernatural danger just dials up the intensity on everything they're already feeling as adolescents.
Exactly. It amplifies everything.
We also see that stranger in a strange land thing quite a bit, don't we? Characters move into a new place, often somewhere kind of isolated.
Classic trope.
Happens all the time in Goosebumps. And then you have Wednesday arriving at Nevermore Academy, which is definitely a strange land for her, even with her background. What does that add?
Well, putting a character in an unfamiliar, maybe isolated place immediately creates unease. It's fertile ground for spooky stuff. It lets the writers introduce weird settings, new rules, potential dangers. And it forces the character and the audience to figure things out.
And sometimes you get that chosen one idea too, right? Like maybe Bloom and Fate with her unique fire powers, or Eleven and Stranger Things being so central.
Yeah, that can definitely be part of it. It adds that layer of destiny, of special importance to their struggle. But fundamentally, the supernatural element itself, the ghosts, the monster, the magic, that's usually the main engine driving the conflict.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Looking at the actual inspirations, like R.L. Stine pointing to old tales from the Crypt comics for Goosebumps, and apparently Slappy the Dummy, inspired by Pinocchio, which is kind of wild.
It is, and the Haunted Mask, one of his most famous ones, came from a real thing that happened with his son and a Halloween mask.
So what does that tell us? That these writers are pulling from all over?
Pretty much. They're drawing on a whole history of scary stories, myths, folklore, but also, yeah, personal experience sometimes. And look at Stranger Things, they are soaked in 1980s movie influences.
Oh, completely. The Goonies, Stand By Me.
Spielberg, John Carpenter, Stephen King himself, Wes Craven. That 80s nostalgia in Stranger Things isn't just set dressing, it's baked into its DNA. It's calling back to those earlier touchstones.
And then you have connections like Fate, the Winx saga coming from the Winx Club cartoon. And it's interesting that some of the Fate writers also worked on the Vampire Diaries.
Which itself came from a book series.
Right. And Wednesday is obviously based on the Charles Addams character, and having Tim Burton involved connects it straight back to his whole aesthetic and the earlier Addams Family stuff.
It really highlights how these ideas build on each other, how they evolve across different media, different decades even. It's like a conversation happening over time.
It's also fascinating to peek behind the curtain at the production side. Like, the idea for a live-action Winx Club show was apparently floating around since 2011 before Fate happened.
Yeah, takes time.
Or R.L. Stine churning out Goosebumps books in, like, 6 days sometimes. That's just unbelievable speed.
Incredible output.
And the locations they used for filming it and Stranger Things, chosen specifically to evoke that small-town America feeling, or that slightly off-kilter vibe. What did these details add?
I think they show the level of, craft and commitment involved, and it clearly paid off in many cases when you look at the reception. Goosebumps book selling over 400 million copies worldwide, that's staggering.
Absolutely. And Fate. The Winx saga, despite maybe some fan criticism, pulled in huge viewing numbers for Netflix initially.
And the first movie just obliterated box office records for a horror film.
Yep.
Scream as a franchise, even with some ups and downs critically, has been massively successful financially.
Yeah, it's funny how reception changes too. Like, Scary Movie critics were kind of harsh, but it became a huge cult hit. Some Scream sequels, maybe 3 and 4, people seem to appreciate them more now than when they first came out.
There's often a reappraisal later on. Plus, you look at the awards and nominations for shows like It, Stranger Things, Wednesday. That signals a certain level of critical respect, too, beyond just popularity.
And can't ignore the wider cultural footprint. People often credit the Vampire Diaries with kicking off that huge wave of supernatural teen romance dramas in the late 2000s and early 2010s.
It definitely set a template, and Stranger Things is practically synonymous with 80s nostalgia culture now.
So why do some just explode like that and stick around?
It's often about tapping into something in the zeitgeist, isn't it? Connecting with current moods, anxieties, or even nostalgic desires. And the fact that so many spawn these huge franchises, that really speaks to their staying power.
Oh man, the franchises. It's almost expected now. Goosebumps isn't just books, it's multiple TV series, movies, games, comics, merchandise, everything.
A whole empire.
Fate. The Winx saga got graphic novels to continue the story after Netflix canceled it.
Finding other ways to live on.
We got a chapter 2, and now there's that Welcome to Derry prequel series coming to Max. Scary Movie had, 4 sequels?
That's total films, yeah.
Stranger Things has an animated spin-off planned, and the Vampire Diaries world just kept going with the originals and then legacies.
It shows there's a real appetite for more stories within these worlds once they're established.
And you often see familiar faces pop up, right? Actors or creators staying involved.
Definitely helps maintain continuity. Think of the core Scream actors, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette returning multiple times, or Kevin Williamson coming back to write.
Or the Duffer Brothers being the driving force behind Stranger Things, Kevin Williamson and Julie Plec shaping the Vampire Diaries universe, Tim Burton's heavy involvement in Wednesday.
That consistency from the creative team can be a really big draw for fans. it provides a sense of authorship.
It's also striking how different the feel of these stories can be, even within the same broad genre.
Absolutely. Big tonal variations.
You got the outright parody and slapstick of Scary Movie on one end.
The intense, almost suffocatingly nostalgic vibe of Stranger Things.
The genuinely disturbing, dark themes explored in it.
And then the heavy focus on romance and interpersonal drama in The Vampire Diaries or Fate, the Winx saga.
Even R.L. Stine had a specific approach for Goosebumps, right?
Yeah.
He talked about avoiding really serious stuff like death or drugs, focusing instead on, quote, reading motivation. Keep it scary but fun.
Yeah, a very deliberate choice for his audience. And then Scream is famous for its meta-commentary, constantly pointing out the horror tropes it's using.
So how does all that tonal variety play into why we watch? Does it let the genre do different things?
I think it does. It means the teen supernatural label can contain a lot of different experiences. The self-awareness of Scream appeals to genre-savvy viewers. The humor elsewhere can make things less bleak. The romance hits certain emotional beats. It allows the genre to keep reinventing itself, maybe?
So when you boil it all down, why this enduring appeal? Why do we keep getting drawn to stories about kids and teenagers mixed up with ghosts and monsters and magic?
Well, I think there are probably a few overlapping reasons. Escapism is a big one, clearly. Diving into worlds totally different from our own.
Sure, getting away from the everyday.
And there's also perhaps a way to explore fears. Fears about the unknown, about growing up, about evil, but in a, controlled environment through characters.
That makes sense. Confronting scary things from the safety of your couch.
Yeah. And maybe seeing characters who are young, maybe underestimated, actually rise to meet these incredible challenges. There's something inherently compelling and empowering about that.
Like wish fulfillment, almost.
Could be part of it. And we definitely can't discount nostalgia, especially for adult viewers now, like we mentioned with Stranger Things. Remembering the kinds of stories they loved growing up.
And the characters themselves, even when they're dealing with, interdimensional beings, they're often still relatable in their basic struggles, aren't they?
Absolutely. Navigating friendships, identity, family, all that universal stuff is still there, just amplified by the supernatural circumstances. We connect with their human side.
Okay, so wrapping things up, we've touched on a lot how central teen characters are, the way these shows blend genres like horror, comedy, drama, the recurring themes like friendship being crucial, how much they borrow from or react to older stories and cultural moments, and how massive these things can become as franchises.
Yeah, it's a really dynamic and frankly pretty complex genre when you start pulling it apart. It keeps changing.
So maybe something for you listening to chew on. What is it about these stories? Sometimes they're scary, sometimes they're funny, often they're both that keeps pulling us in. Not just when we're teens, but as adults too. Or maybe think about which specific themes or tropes we talked about. The found family, the stranger in a strange land, the final girl, whatever really resonate most strongly with you personally, why that might be.
Yeah, this deep dive has really just skimmed the surface in a way. There's so much more you could unpack in any one of these series or films. So we definitely encourage you, go back and revisit a favorite. Maybe look at it with some of these ideas in mind. Or perhaps check out one you haven't seen before. There's always more to explore in these weird and wonderful worlds.